The protagonist of the story is a second-year university student, Yuuta Hasegawa. Smoking on a bench, Yuuta shares his thoughts about how Santa wouldn't come even if she were a good kid. Talking with Yuuta is his friend Ayaka Mino, who explains that she will be a good kid depending on what Santa gives her. Curious about what Ayaka wanted, Yuuta asks. Ayaka then reveals that she wanted a boyfriend, to which Yuuta is not surprised. Seeing Yuta's reaction, Ayaka wants to know what's wrong since everyone wants to be in a relationship during that time of the year. When Ayaka asks Yuuta what he wants, he simply responds, "Money." Yuta's answer leads Ayaka to tease him for still being hung up on his ex-girlfriend. Without resistance, Yuuta immediately reveals that he indeed is still hung up on his ex. Curious if Yuuta is still in touch with his ex-girlfriend, Ayaka then realizes that Yuuta does not have the guts to do such a thing, which makes her laugh after seeing Yuta's expression. Ayaka and Yuuta have been friends since they were second-year students in high school. Ayaka is beautiful and is approached by many men. However, due to her personality, Ayaka still hasn't been able to get a boyfriend. Ayaka then suggests Yuuta start attending a mixer, and even promises to be his Santa if he wants. Yuuta would only accept the suggestion if Ayaka pays him to join the mixer. Yuta's response surprises Ayaka, making her curious as to why she would have to pay him. Putting out his cigarette, Yuuta tells Ayaka that he will pass on the mixer. Seeing Yuuta stand up, Ayaka did not expect him to leave so soon. Yuuta explains that he has a part-time job and has put in a lot of shifts like a madman. Before Yuuta leaves, Ayaka reminds him to message her if he changes his mind. Yuuta wanted to apologize to Ayaka for lying, as he had no part-time job that day. Having had his heart broken a month ago, Yuuta wasn't quite ready to attend a mixer yet. Yuuta sighs as he notices he reeks of smoke. Seeing a Christmas tree, he becomes annoyed as he accidentally passes through a date spot. Several people start approaching Yuuta, hoping he will buy some of their products. A woman suddenly approaches Yuuta, pleading for him to take a flyer. When Yuuta refuses, he accidentally bumps into the woman, causing her to drop the rest of her flyers. Feeling guilty, Yuuta helps the woman pick up the flyers, but does not expect them to be immediately stepped on by a group of people passing by. Yuuta once again apologizes to the woman and offers to pay for the damages. The woman thinks it's okay, as she will just explain what happened to her manager after distributing all the clean ones. She then apologizes to Yuuta for suddenly giving him a flyer. Still feeling guilty, Yuuta offers to go with the woman, wanting to explain and help her out with her manager. Seeing the woman up close, who is wearing a Santa costume, Yuta's heart skips a beat. Yuuta realizes that the woman is really gorgeous and every man passing on the streets is sneaking a look at her. The woman tells Yuuta that he will be of great help in explaining what happened, as her manager is a very strict person. The woman asks Yuuta if he is sure about his decision, revealing that she still has an hour left in her shift. Yuuta responds that he can wait and mentions that the university he attends is just nearby. After learning that Yuuta is a student at a nearby university, the woman is pleased and introduces herself as Mayu Shinomiya. After introducing themselves to each other, they go their separate ways. At a cafe, Yuuta notices the clock and realizes that 40 minutes have already passed since their meeting time, and Mayu still hasn't shown up. Although Yuuta wants to compensate Mayu for what he did, there is nothing more he can do besides apologize to her manager along with her. As he leaves the cafe, Yuuta suddenly bumps into a loving couple, which makes him feel even more depressed. Yuuta was also in a loving relationship until about a month ago when he was cheated on by his ex-girlfriend. Reina Isaka was the name of his ex. They attended different universities and were the same age. Because of how pretty Reina was, Yuuta often felt she was wasted on someone like him. After becoming intimate and buying Reina luxurious gifts, Yuta's heart was shattered when he discovered for himself that Reina was cheating on him. Continuing his walk, Yuuta decides to put on his earphones and listen to some music. On his way home, Yuuta decides to spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day alone, reading manga, just as Christmas is for a single person. Suddenly, Yuuta feels someone tap on his back. Turning around, he is surprised to see none other than Mayu. Yuuta explains that he thought Mayu wasn't going to show up, which made him decide to just go home. He then asks if they should go back to her workplace to apologize. Mayu reveals that Yuuta no longer needs to apologize as she has stopped working as a Santa. Shocked, Yuuta asks if she is okay with her decision. Sharing that it was time for her to leave the Santa job behind, Mayu asks Yuuta to stop calling her Yu since she had already introduced herself. Yuuta apologizes and asks Mayu if she is sure about giving her name so easily to a random person. Mayu becomes annoyed, as Yuta's question makes it sound like she is suggesting she's an easy woman. Seeing Yuta's embarrassed and worried reaction, Mayu laughs and tells him it was a joke. Mayu is relieved to see Yuuta finally smiling, as she had been worried about him since he had looked gloomy for a while. Mayu then reveals to Yuuta that she also attends the same university as he does. After learning that Mayu is a first-year student, Yuuta responds by revealing that he is a second year. Realizing that Yuta was older than her, Mayu says that he does not need to use honorifics when addressing her. Still feeling guilty for what he did, Yuta asks if there's something he could do for Mayu, as she is also responsible for her work. Mayu then asks Yuta if he has any plans for tomorrow, and reveals that she wants to go to a Christmas event for couples. Yuta is curious as to why Mayu would visit a place meant for couples. Since Yuta is feeling apologetic, Mayu wants to take the opportunity to go to a fancy restaurant. When Yuta hears Mayu call him senpai, he tells her to just call him by his name, as hearing the word senpai sounds stiff. Mayu explains that she has a habit of calling anyone older than her senpai. Left with no choice, Yuta tells Mayu to call him whatever she likes. Mayu then happily calls Yuta her senpai and suggests that they exchange contact information. After arriving home, Yuta feels hungry and decides to visit the convenience store later. Suddenly, Yuta receives a message from Ayaka inviting him to a mixer she is hosting on Christmas. Having plans with Mayu, Yuta is hesitant to go out 2 days in a row. Left with no choice, Yuta messages Ayaka declining her offer as he has already made plans. He is surprised when he immediately receives a call from Ayaka, curious if he really has plans for Christmas. Revealing that she does not have enough people for the mixer, Ayaka pleads with Yuta for help. Yuta then suggests that the guys in the mixer bring someone to fill up their side. Ayaka shares that there is a deeper reason for the mixer. When she was asked to introduce her best choice among her male friends, she revealed that Yuta was selected with flying colors. Yuta dares Mayu to hang up the call if she is not being serious. Yuta is also sure that if he attends the mixer as Ayaka's best choice, no one would ever pick him. Ayaka responds that what he just said is not true, revealing that she quite likes Yuta. Surprised, Yuta asks if she hit her head or something. After teasing Yuta, Ayaka asks about his plans and if he really is not lying. Yuta reveals that he was invited by a Santa, which worries Ayaka, making her wonder if Yuta is the one who hit his head. After learning what happened to Yuta earlier, Ayaka asks if he is sure he is not being scammed. Ayaka then shares scenarios that may happen on Yuta's date and even calls him out for picking up a girl. Ayaka is still pleased that Yuta's plans do not overlap with hers. Before ending the call, Ayaka expects Yuta to show up at her mixer. The next day, Yuta meets up with Mayu for their date. As they make their way, Yuta hears a couple of guys praising Mayu for her cute looks. Seeing Mayu up close, Yuta realizes that she has put more effort into her makeup than yesterday. Remembering Ayaka's words, Yuta becomes nervous, hoping that such a scenario will not happen. After entering the restaurant, Yuta and Mayu are guided by the staff to their table, and are surprised to see that the place looks intended for couples only. Sitting beside Mayu, Yuta becomes anxious. Seeing Mayu very happy and getting close to him, Yuta tells her that it is getting too cramped, to which she immediately apologizes. Yuta then finally asks Mayu why she took him to such a place, as it obviously looks like it is meant only for couples. Mayu is glad that Yuta asked and reveals how she was cheated on by her boyfriend. Not having the courage to tell her story, Mayu plans to wash away her embarrassment with alcohol first, but then realizes that her glass is empty. After having their meal, Mayu believes that Yuta is getting so caught up in their food that he may have forgotten that she mentioned something shocking. But Yuta believes that Mayu is the one who is getting caught up in the food. Mayu then shares how she had been begging her boyfriend to take her to the restaurant, but did not expect to be visiting the place with Yuta. Curious, Yuta points out how Mayu does not look sad at all after being cheated on by her boyfriend. Mayu then starts to share how her ex was her first boyfriend and how she has rejected many guys in middle school and high school. When Yuta asks why Mayu chose to go out with her ex in the first place, he does not expect to hear that Mayu only went out with him because she wanted to do what couples do. Although her relationship ended with her boyfriend cheating on her, Mayu is more upset because she feels like she has been deceived. After her experience, Mayu has decided to get revenge. She plans to pay her ex back and then break up with him. In executing her plans, Mayu thinks of the safest thing first, which is to show her ex that she is getting along with other guys. However, in order for her plan to work, she needs a collaborator. The two are suddenly interrupted by a staff member serving their main dish. Before Mayu can finish her sentence, Yuta immediately declines. Yuta then points out that he already knows Mayu's intentions. Asking Yuta to wait, Mayu then shares her plans, but Yuta declines once again. When Yuta tells Mayu to ask someone else, she cries, saying she does not have the courage to ask her friends to do such a thing. To persuade Yuta to comply with her wish, Mayu offers to pay for everything. However, Yuta does not like having a younger girl pay for him. Mayu then teases him for being stiff, hinting that something wonderful may happen to him if he accepts her offer. Still feeling guilty for what he has caused, Yuta starts to get swayed. Yuta is then left in a position where he might end up colluding with Mayu and her plans. After taking a piece of the steak, Yuta is surprised at how delicious it is. Seeing Yuta's reaction, Mayu decides that they should meet again tomorrow. Yuta then reveals that he already has plans for tomorrow and that he will be going to a mixer. After staring at Yuta, Mayu decides to just do their plan some other time, to which Yuta agrees. With Ayaka's mixer happening tomorrow, Yuta thinks about how it will be one hell of a Merry Christmas. Arriving at the mixer that Ayaka hosted, Yuta asks Ayaka how she found such a place. Ayaka thoroughly researched the restaurant, and since she is the host, she wants to make sure that everything goes smoothly. The day before Ayaka's mixer, Mayu made Yuta promise to help her get back at her boyfriend who has been cheating on her. On that same day, Yuta was asked by Ayaka to attend the mixer she was hosting. Yuta suddenly asks Ayaka where the others are, which surprises Ayaka. Yuta continues to press on and asks why there are no other people on either the guys' or girls' side, leaving the two of them alone. Ayaka then embarrassingly tells Yuta that she gave him the wrong meeting time, which caused him to arrive an hour early. Admitting that it was her fault in the first place, Ayaka tries to justify it, saying she messaged Yuta several times but he never read them. Yuta then checks his phone and realizes that what Ayaka is saying is true. Ayaka guesses that Yuta was just too focused on his music since he was lonely living all alone. Feeling bad for making Yuta wait by himself, Ayaka decides to go out of her way and also come early. Ayaka hopes that Yuta will find a girl he likes at the event. Sharing that he never really liked going to mixers, Yuta would prefer they just enjoy their conversation, but he is embarrassed to say it to her. After some time, the guys and girls arrive, introducing themselves one by one. As Ayaka greets everyone, Yuta notices how all the guys are handsome, which he considers Ayaka's best choice. A man named Yudu Mototaka introduces himself and approaches Ayaka, thanking her for inviting him to the mixer. Ayaka also thanks Yudu for coming even though she invited him on such short notice. Yudu doesn't mind, as he would go anywhere if Ayaka invited him. Once everyone settles down, they start ordering their food and drinks. With the mixer starting, Yuta's attention is caught by one of the girls named Natsuki Yamanashi. Yuta is caught off guard when Natsuki suddenly shares that she loves manga. Sharing the same hobby, Yuta mentions his current favorite, Hijajushi, and asks Natsuki if she has any recommendations for him. Natsuki is surprised, as she is also reading the same manga. At first, Yuta wasn't too enthusiastic about the mixer, but he begins to enjoy it. While talking about the latest chapters of the manga they are currently reading, Yuta suddenly stops as he hears Yudu professing that he wants Ayaka to be his girlfriend. Seeing the two laugh and enjoy their time, Yuta wonders if Yudu is aiming for Ayaka. Yuta doesn't have much experience with relationships, but he can already tell the intentions behind the guys' faces when they approach Ayaka, who is also a beautiful woman. After seeing how Yudu looks at Ayaka, Yuta can tell there is a serious appeal behind what seems like a joke. Yuta recalls a conversation he had with Ayaka a while back, where he noticed that Ayaka got along well with flirty types. After learning that flirty types were not Ayaka's preference, Yuta is curious why she gets along so well with everyone. Ayaka always thought it would be better to have more friends, despite only having small connections with most people. Yuta is convinced that Ayaka is forcing herself to deal with Yudu. After observing Ayaka, Yuta concludes that being nice to everyone is more trouble than it's worth. The mood suddenly shifts when Yudu asks all the girls when their first time was. Yudu then pressures a girl named Mizuki to answer. Ayaka steps in, pointing out to Yudu that such a question shouldn't be asked of someone they just met. Yudu tries to involve the other guys, claiming they also want to know. Unable to speak up, the guys awkwardly laugh in response. Fed up with Yudu's disrespectful behavior, Yuta tells him to stop bothering the girls. Annoyed, Yudu complains that everyone is a killjoy and that he's bored. A heated argument between Yuta and Yudu begins to escalate. Yudu mentions how most mixers he's attended were like this and thought it was normal. Ayaka initially agrees that some mixers are like that, but she stops talking when she runs out of words to defend her position. Seeing Ayaka's reaction, Yuta realizes that neither she nor the other girls wanted such behavior at the mixer. Yudu, the only one happy with the situation, offers to share his own first-time story. Just as Ayaka is about to say something, she is interrupted by Mayu's sudden appearance. Yuta is surprised, as he never shared any information about the mixer with Mayu, and wonders what she's doing at the restaurant. Shocked to see Mayu, Yudu nervously asks why she is there, but Mayu asks him the same question. Watching their behavior, Yuta quickly guesses that the boyfriend who cheated on Mayu is none other than Yudu. With their sudden encounter, Mayu notices how Yudu is having a lot of fun with others. Yudu tries to clarify the situation, claiming they're just having a Christmas party, but Mayu doesn't believe him. Yudu attempts to have others back him up, but Yuta reveals that the event is actually a mixer. Yuta then starts explaining how these types of events are where Yudu typically asks inappropriate questions to the girls. Realizing the truth, Mayu reminds Yudu that they are still in a relationship and tells him not to embarrass her. Annoyed, Yudu questions Mayu about her relationship with Yuta, accusing her of lying about not having many male friends. Mayu retorts by telling Yudu to look at himself first and lower his voice as he is disturbing everyone. Yuta is horrified when Mayu reveals that she and Yuta spent Christmas Eve together. Seeing Yuta about to speak, Mayu whispers to him to play along. Trembling, Yuta accuses Mayu of cheating, asking if she thinks it's acceptable for a woman to cheat. As the argument intensifies, Ayaka stands up and announces that the event has ended. Though Yuta is grateful to have been invited by Ayaka, he leaves displeased, blaming the others for ruining his time. Mayu leaves with Yuta but informs Yuta before leaving. Natsuki then approaches Yuta, feeling bad about what happened earlier, and excuses herself. After confirming the bill, Ayaka apologizes to the attendees for the incident. Walking down the street, Ayaka is annoyed, believing she ruined the event. Yuta tries to comfort her by pointing out that what happened could serve as a lesson. Ayaka, however, is still upset, as she didn't want the event to turn out badly, especially on Christmas. Yuta reassures Ayaka that everyone was supportive of her and despite the outcome, probably still had fun. Ayaka then recalls Mayu and asks Yuta if she is the Santa he spent Christmas Eve with. After confirming this, Ayaka is surprised and tells Yuta that he should have told her earlier. In Yuta's defense, he didn't expect to meet Mayu at the restaurant either. Yuta asks Ayaka how she knows Mayu, and Ayaka reveals that Mayu is her junior. Yuta learns that Mayu also asked Ayaka about the mixer's location. Ayaka wonders if she had told Mayu that she and Yuta were close, as Mayu didn't seem surprised at all. As they part ways, Ayaka apologizes to Yuta again and promises to make it up to him. To repay him, Ayaka offers to take Yuta on a date. Surprised, Yuta didn't expect Ayaka to confidently offer a date to make up for what happened. Seeing Yuta's reaction, Ayaka is surprised, as most guys she knows would be thrilled with a date offer. Yuta then tells Ayaka that they wouldn't have gotten along so well if he were that easy. Yuta shares that he enjoys their casual conversations, to which Ayaka agrees. Lying in bed and staring at his phone, Yuta hopes that Ayaka doesn't feel too down about what happened at the mixer. Yuta then sees Reina's post on social media, which makes him feel a little depressed. He suddenly remembers Mayu and hopes she's okay after leaving with Yuta. Concerned, Yuta tries calling Mayu, but she doesn't answer. Stepping out onto his balcony, Yuta lights a cigarette when he suddenly receives a call from Mayu. After answering, Mayu asks if Yuta was worried about her. She assures him that everything is fine and admits she was about to call him but was surprised when he called first. Mayu apologizes for the awkwardness she feels responsible for and believes she made things uncomfortable for everyone. Sensing Mayu's guilt, Yuta reassures her that the mood had soured long before she arrived. Yuta then asks Mayu if she broke up with Yuta, which she confirms. Mayu blames herself for getting into a relationship with Yuta just to experience what couples do. Yuta consoles Mayu, telling her that her actions are similar to what many couples start with. Yuta expresses how happy he is that Mayu honestly shared her feelings with him. Mayu is pleased as she expected Yuta to comfort her rather than blame her for her actions. Yuta clarifies that Mayu was partly at fault, but since she still hasn't sorted out her emotions, she decided to share them with him. Hearing Yuta's words, Mayu wonders if his maturity is what she respects the most about him. As their conversation continues, Mayu shares how relieved she feels when Yuta listens to her. Before ending the call, Mayu promises to make it up to Yuta. Knowing that Mayu will try to repay him, Yuta finds it amusing. At the university, Yuta was feeling cold and decided to have a warm drink before heading home. After inserting the coin, Yuta was surprised when someone suddenly pressed the button and took his drink. It was then revealed that it was Mayu thanking him for the drink. Curious, Yuta asks Mayu what she is doing at the university during winter break. Surprised by Yuta's question, Mayu then teases him, saying how most people would be happy to see her over the winter break. Half-heartedly agreeing with Mayu, Yuta then tells her to pay up. Mayu tells Yuta to stop being grumpy, as it was her plan all along. After purchasing a coffee, Mayu notices that the coffee is cold and asks Yuta if that is what he really wanted. Yuta confirms it, telling Mayu that he likes his coffee cold. Receiving another thank you from Mayu, Yuta reminds her that she has already thanked him plenty. Mayu admits that she has thanked him already but still wants to say it again. Feeling lucky that she met Yuta, Mayu asks if she can make it up to him now. Yuta outright refuses what Mayu is about to do as he feels that he does not deserve it. Rather than making it up to Yuta, Mayu wants to thank him, as she feels a little bit saved by him that day. Since she was once a Santa, Mayu offers him one wish and will grant whatever Yuta asks. Not able to think of anything at first, Yuta then decides to have Mayu do his chores. Outside Yuta's home, Yuta asks Mayu if she really wants to go inside his house. Mayu asks Yuta why he is so reluctant, even though he was the one who asked her. On the spur of the moment, Yuta asked Mayu to do his chores. However, he did not expect that Mayu would actually visit his house. Yuta tries to take back what he said, but Mayu becomes annoyed and tells Yuta not to say such a thing when they've already come so far. After opening the door to his house, Mayu immediately takes off her shoes and roams around the house. Mayu is impressed by how tidy Yuta's room is. Yuta did not expect Mayu to call his house tidy and asks what she expected to see. Mayu thought the place would be a garbage dump, but after seeing it, she tells Yuta that doing his chores will not be a problem. Seeing a girl inside his room, Yuta knows that if it was him a month ago, he wouldn't have imagined it. Mayu then advises Yuta not to leave his clothes lying around as they will get wrinkled. Mayu asks Yuta why he's living all alone, to which Yuta responds that he has a lot of reasons. When Yuta asks Mayu why she is suddenly asking, Mayu says that it would be easier to live at home as there would be food every time they got home. Since Yuta does not seem to cook, Mayu thought Yuta would prefer that instead. Listening to Mayu, Yuta ends up agreeing with her point of view. When Mayu mentions that she is done, Yuta is surprised. But he is even more surprised when he sees how sparkly the sink is. Yuta is very much amazed, as Mayu cleaned all of Yuta's dishes in just a short period of time. Mayu also shares that she lives alone, making her used to such chores. With making lunch as her next agenda, Mayu tells Yuta to just sit and relax. Yuta is surprised that Mayu would also make lunch, wondering if she is trying to do him a favor. Mayu laughs, clarifying that what she is doing is just payment for Yuta's help. Pushing Yuta away, Mayu tells him to stop saying weird things and just watch TV. Following Mayu's orders, Yuta suddenly receives a message from Ayaka, wanting to hang out with him. Though Yuta thinks Ayaka acts like a kid, he still agrees and asks when, where, and what they are going to do first. After receiving the information from Ayaka, Yuta realizes that it is tomorrow. Since he has no plans for tomorrow, Yuta decides to go. Using what she can find in Yuta's refrigerator, Mayu presents Yuta with sandwiches, which impress him. After thanking Mayu for the food, Yuta immediately takes a bite and thinks the sandwich is very delicious. Out of nowhere, Mayu asks Yuta if he is part of a club. Yuta shares that he is in the basketball club. Mayu was a member of a club for a while after she entered university, which made her get interested in ordinary college students like Yuta. Knowing what Mayu looks like, Yuta tells her that she doesn't have to do anything to attract ordinary college students. Mayu tells Yuta that there are a lot of party people around her, and that she is not jaded enough to think that they are normal. Listening to Mayu, Yuta believes that it is how she ended up dating Yudu. Mayu asks Yuta not to bring up her ex-boyfriend as she is still reflecting on it. Swallowing a big part of the sandwich, Mayu ends up coughing. Worried, Yuta approaches her. However, the two end up getting close to one another's face. Yuta immediately apologizes and creates space between them. With her heart beating fast, Mayu asks Yuta if he has a girlfriend. Yuta reveals that he does not have one, and points out that if he did, he wouldn't let another girl inside his room. Mayu is surprised as she thought that a person like Yuta is rare. Upon hearing the ringing of her phone, Mayu immediately picks up her jacket as it is time for her job. Yuta is surprised as he did not expect Mayu to visit his home before heading to work. As Mayu quickly fixes herself, Yuta apologizes for making Mayu do his chores right before her work time. Mayu tells Yuta that he should say thank you instead of apologizing. Putting her hand to her ear, Mayu asks Yuta to say, "Thanks for the food," as it would make her happy. Feeling warmth, Yuta agrees with Mayu and thanks her for the food. Before leaving, Mayu tells Yuta that she will come and see him again. Thinking that Mayu may visit his house again, Yuta thinks that it may not be that bad. Walking down the street, Mayu does not expect that Yuta's house would be very tidy. When Yuta suddenly mentioned doing his chores, Mayu thought that Yuta's room would be in a big mess. Mayu thought that it would be interesting if Yuta, who she deems a reliable person, was someone who couldn't do anything at home. Since Yuta's refrigerator doesn't have much inside, Mayu could only make sandwiches with the ingredients she had. Upon seeing Yuta's smile after taking a bite of the sandwich she made, Mayu feels happy. Next time she visits, Mayu plans to cook Yuta a much better meal. Ayaka was starting to regret her decision to visit the mall. Yuta, who was carrying Ayaka's bags, reminded her that she was the one who invited him in the first place. Ayaka explained that Yuta was the only person she could ask for the job. Ayaka told Yuta that his task wouldn't be free, and promised to treat him to whatever he wanted for dinner, which Yuta was very pleased to hear. While looking through the products in the store, Yuta mentioned how people are now buying their cosmetics online. Ayaka added that there are also review sites which she used once for reference. However, Ayaka learned about a scheme where one could get a present if the seller was given a positive review. For this reason, Ayaka decided to purchase a hair treatment full of fake reviews, and ended up getting her hair damaged. After the incident, Ayaka decided to make decisions she wouldn't regret. Understanding Ayaka, Yuta knew that Ayaka could be harsh at times, but her strong personality was what made her charming. Wondering how many people knew about this side of Ayaka, Yuta commented on how it was a waste. Not expecting Yuta's opinion, Ayaka thought that the product had a fair price at first, but then realized that the price was indeed a bit expensive after hearing Yuta. Ayaka then stood up, telling Yuta that she wanted to get a better look, and decided to check out the rest of the products. While Ayaka was occupied with looking through the cosmetics, she advised Yuta to look for a place for them to eat. Yuta guessed that even if someone had a strong personality, it would be a different story when it came to shopping. During their meal, Ayaka was a bit disappointed with Yuta for choosing an Odin shop and reminded him that she would treat him to whatever he wanted. Yuta, who had been wanting to visit the Odin shop for some time, told Ayaka to just have a look. Opening the pot, Ayaka was surprised to see so much food inside. Yuta then told Ayaka that this was the order he had been curious about and thought it was a bargain since it cost only 2,000 yen. After handing Ayaka her plate, Yuta noticed the guys nearby talking about her. Even though Yuta was the one who brought Ayaka to the Odin shop, he immediately noticed that Ayaka's beauty stood out in such a place. Yuta was surprised when Ayaka accepted a free mochi kinchaku that was meant for couples. Seeing Yuta's expression, Ayaka whispered to just accept their offer, and Yuta ended up agreeing. Watching Ayaka eat, Yuta realized that he had become comfortable eating with her. Back in high school, Yuta and Ayaka occasionally had lunch together during breaks. Back then, Yuta was quite conscious of the glares they received. It took a lot of courage for Yuta to be around Ayaka, who had an attractive appearance. Yuta had to be prepared for people around him to tease him, be jealous of him, and other things. Now, as adults, Yuta was no longer bothered by such things. He wondered if the reason he was no longer being teased was that people now saw him and Ayaka as adults and treated them as such. Noticing Yuta's expression, Ayaka asked if he didn't like the Odin. Ayaka was surprised when Yuta shared his thoughts about them now becoming adults. Now at the age of over 20, Yuta used to think that when a person turned 20, they would become an adult in body and mind. However, Yuta was surprised that this was not the case. Being treated as adults, Yuta believed that time would not wait for them, and that their peaceful college life would not last forever. Upon learning what was on Yuta's mind, Ayaka also agreed, noting that in time they would eventually finish college and look for jobs. Also agreeing with Ayaka's statements, Yuta wondered if his relationship with Ayaka would eventually change and admitted to himself that he was currently afraid of change. With a sad look, Yuta wished he could go back to middle school, be young, do activities, and not think about the future. Ayaka also agreed, and said she would go back in time if she could. Suddenly, Yuta received a message from Mayu, informing him that she was hanging out with a friend and would buy him a snack later. Although Mayu was only 1 year younger than him, her lively energy made Yuta unwittingly compare himself to her. Seeing Yuta's expression change, Ayaka asked if something had happened. Noticing Yuta's odd reaction, Ayaka guessed it was from Yuta's new girlfriend. Yuta immediately told her that it wasn't. Yuta then told Ayaka that they should eat now before the rest of the food turned cold. To Yuta's surprise, there was nothing left in the pot. Yuta was pleased when Ayaka offered him half of her food. Watching him eat, Ayaka smiled and told him that a lot of things were going to change in the future, but she vowed to always be there for him. Yuta felt warm and thanked her. After teasing him, Ayaka laughed and informed Yuta that they should stay together even when they became adults. Yuta and Ayaka had been friends since high school and hoped that their relationship would never change. Outside the Odin shop, Mayu passed by holding food as she noticed a familiar figure inside the shop. After opening the door for a while after hearing the doorbell, Yuta did not expect to see Mayu in front of his house. Looking very upset, Mayu asked Yuta if he had something to say to her. When Yuta asked her the reason for her visit, Mayu became annoyed since Yuta did not say the right words and told him to apologize for making her wait outside in the cold. Although Yuta somewhat agreed with Mayu, he still pointed out how she suddenly visited him without saying anything beforehand. Mayu then handed Yuta a present, a small token of her appreciation. Yuta's expression immediately changed after receiving the gift, and he told Mayu that she was now welcome to come into his house. As Mayu entered his home, Yuta knew that she would visit again but did not expect it to be so soon. Realizing he was still in his pajamas, Yuta thought of changing into proper clothing. As Mayu approached Yuta to ask him something, she was surprised and felt embarrassed after seeing Yuta taking off his clothes. Covering her eyes, Mayu frantically apologized. However, to her surprise, Yuta was not embarrassed about having someone see him half naked. All of a sudden, Yuta's stomach started growling, which he smilingly mentioned to Mayu, saying he was now hungry. Still embarrassed to see Yuta, Mayu decided to cook something for Yuta's breakfast. Yuta became very happy and told Mayu that he had recently gone shopping and that there would be plenty of ingredients for her to use. Agreeing to use the ingredients, Mayu also pleaded with Yuta to wear something, as she could not focus while he was half naked. After giving Yuta his breakfast, Mayu mentioned how people would normally wear pants first, believing that to be the right order. Drinking his soup, Yuta was surprised since he did not expect Mayu to be more naive than he thought. Yuta then explained that he had just woken up and his head was still foggy. After Yuta praised the soup she made, Mayu asked him what he usually ate. Upon learning that Yuta usually ate gyudon or konbini bento, Mayu became worried and advised him to cook his own food for the sake of his health. Yuta agreed with Mayu but found it difficult since he was living by himself. However, Yuta thought about changing his behavior. After looking at the contents inside Yuta's refrigerator, Mayu noticed there were a lot of ingredients that could be used and offered to teach him how to cook. Surprised, Yuta was pleased, accepting Mayu's offer and wanting to start right away. Mayu happily responded, telling Yuta to leave it up to her. Putting on an apron, Mayu asked Yuta if he could crack 4 eggs for her. Yuta found it hard to focus as he thought Mayu looked very cute in the apron. While checking through Yuta's refrigerator, Mayu was surprised to find hollandaise sauce and asked Yuta why he had it. Yuta responded that he had bought it online a while ago and just left it in his fridge. Mayu decided to use the hollandaise so that the purchase would not go to waste. Staring at Mayu, Yuta told her she looked like she was getting used to his home. He then asked Mayu why she came in the first place. Surprised that Yuta was now asking the reason, Mayu explained how she just wanted to drop by and see him before heading back to her parents' house. Mayu revealed that it would be the last time she could see Yuta that year. Yuta then remembered that tomorrow was already New Year's Eve. Yuta began to reminisce about the events that had happened throughout the year, especially when he saw his ex-girlfriend cheat on him. Mayu then asked Yuta if he had any idea what they would be making. Guessing, Yuta asked if they were making sunny-side eggs. Mayu mentioned that she was so happy with herself that she forgot to teach him. Mayu told Yuta she would just teach him next time and promised to do the rest of the cooking for now. When Yuta asked if she was sure, Mayu responded that she would take the opportunity to show her skills. After prepping the food and tasting the sauce, Mayu handed the food to Yuta. Thinking the food was awesome, Yuta immediately took a bite and was blown away by how good it was. Yuta did not expect to eat restaurant-level food in his own home. Embarrassed, Mayu told Yuta not to put her on the spot so suddenly, revealing that she only cooked 5 times a week. Hearing how often Mayu cooked, Yuta thought she was cool. Yuta then told Mayu that if she ever had the chance to make the same food again, he would love to eat it. Speechless at first, Mayu's expression changed, and she responded that she would gladly make it for him. Although many things had happened throughout the year, Yuta was still glad that Ayaka and Mayu were there to make his year less depressing. Noticing the time, Mayu told Yuta she had to leave as it was almost time for her Shinkansen. Not expecting that Mayu would just visit briefly, Yuta told her she shouldn't have come all the way to his home. Mayu revealed that she had not visited his home for a simple reason. Nervous, Yuta asked what other reason she had. Mayu announced that she wanted to have meals with Yuta 5 times a week, which surprised Yuta. Knowing that Yuta felt lonely eating alone, Mayu suggested to Yuta that they have a meal together once in a while. Liking Mayu's offer, Yuta pointed out that visiting him 5 times a week would be too much. Mayu, now having a lot of free time after quitting her club and breaking up with Yudu, said she had no choice but to barge into Yuta's home. Listening to Mayu, Yuta realized she was just killing some time by visiting his home. As their conversation went on, the two ended up agreeing that Mayu would visit Yuta's home 2 times a week. After being told by Mayu that she would take all his side for herself, Yuta did not realize that his relationship with Mayu and others was starting to change gradually. When Yuta asked Mayu what she meant by her words, Mayu only laughed as her negotiation was a success. Half a month into the new year, Yuta was getting back to his normal routine, but there's one thing that has changed at his home. Mayu, the ex-Santa, now visits his home 3 times a week. Barging into Yuta's house, Mayu scolds him for making a mess of his room while she is gone. Mayu asks Yuta why his room always goes back to the way it was every time she does not come. Yuta then points out that no man ever cleans his room. Faintly agreeing with Yuta, Mayu still hoped that Yuta would clean his room at the beginning of the year. Having his shirt taken, Yuta asked for it to be returned as he planned to fold it himself later. However, Mayu does not want to be fooled again, as Yuta had already said the same thing last week but still did not do it. At the end of last year, Mayu made a deal with Yuta to visit him twice a week. In reality, Mayu visits his house 3 times a week, which leaves Yuta a bit at a loss. However, there is still one thing that Yuta is really grateful for, and that is the food Mayu cooks. After being served another delicious meal by Mayu, Yuta thought about how good it looked and was sure that he could not make the food that Mayu was making. Mayu thought that it was always worth the effort to cook since Yuta made her food look so delicious. Yuta reminds Mayu that when he is alone, he would just grab food at a convenience store. Having someone cook him homemade food, Yuta feels happy and is grateful to Mayu. For all the good things Mayu has done for him, Yuta wanted to pay her back someday. However, Mayu tells him that he did not have to, as eating with him in her free time was enough. Yuta was surprised, as he did not expect Mayu to be so considerate of his wallet situation. Yuta ended up spitting out his food when Mayu changed her mind and hinted that she wanted a Vuitton wallet. On the verge of passing out, Yuta told Mayu not to ask for a high-brand product, to which Mayu immediately revealed that it was just a joke. Yuta then thought that although they split the food cost, he always had Mayu to do his housework and cooking. Yuta thought that if it's just for a special occasion, he would consider giving Mayu the gift. Thinking of a birthday as a special occasion, Yuta then asked Mayu when her birthday was. To his surprise, Yuta did not expect that Mayu's birthday was already tomorrow. For her birthday, Mayu is having a celebration for almost being a grown-up birthday with her friend, since she is turning 19. Yuta was planning to give Mayu something for her birthday as a thank you for all the help she has given him. But Yuta is unable to prepare anything since Mayu's birthday is tomorrow. Yuta thought of taking Mayu out for dinner but learned that she already had plans for tomorrow. Observing Yuta's behavior, Mayu was able to guess that Yuta was thinking of buying her something for her birthday. She then teases Yuta for buying her a gift even though they've only known each other for a month. Yuta explains how he could not afford brand-named objects, but since Mayu always does so much for him, he wanted to give something as a thank you. Realizing that Yuta was serious, Mayu tells him that it was a joke, and that letting her barge into his house was already enough. However, Yuta insists on giving Mayu a gift. Seeing that she can no longer change Yuta's mind, Mayu tells Yuta that she will just look forward to his gift. The next day, Yuta was out shopping and was starting to get confused since the wallets were now starting to look the same to him. Ayaka then drags Yuta, telling him that they will check out the next store. Complaining that they are now checking so many stores, Ayaka reminded Yuta that he was the one who asked for her help, pointing out that she does not know what Mayu prefers. Yuta apologizes for dragging her since she is the only one he can ask about such things. Since she has accepted Yuta's favor, Ayaka wants to make sure that she picks out a good present for Mayu. Ayaka then reminds Yuta of his promise to treat her to lunch. Seeing the prices of the wallets that range around 90,000 to 70,000 yen, Yuta immediately felt like going home. Ayaka encourages Yuta, as she is sure that there is something Yuta can buy if they just look around some more. Yuta then thought to himself that no matter how much he appreciated Mayu's help, giving a girl an expensive gift was outrageous. Ayaka then called Yuta's attention, pointing out a wallet that looked nice and was also affordable. Thinking that 20,000 yen is still a bit high, but for a birthday present and a thank you gift, Yuta thought that it was enough. Seeing Yuta still unable to make a decision, Ayaka reveals that she is a member of the store and that they are currently having a members-only secret sale. Yuta was shocked to learn that if he purchased 2 items, the price of one of the products would change from 20,000 to 15,000 yen. After revealing the secret, Ayaka decided to purchase a product as well, so that Yuta would get the discount. Yuta felt guilty and did not want Ayaka to purchase something just for him. Ayaka tells him that it is fine as she will use the chance to fool herself, using helping a friend as a pretense. Without a second thought, Ayaka left to look for the store clerk. Staring at the expensive wallets, Yuta remembers the last time he had trouble purchasing an expensive gift, which was when he was still going out with Reina. When Yuta was still dating Reina, he quietly gathered information about Reina's tastes and what she wanted. Yuta remembered how he spent a few days preparing for it, worrying whether the gift would look good with the clothes she was wearing or what the latest designs were. Wondering why he was suddenly thinking about Reina, Yuta was surprised when he suddenly heard a familiar voice. Upon turning his head, Yuta was surprised to meet Reina at the store. Unable to look Reina straight in the eyes, Yuta begins to wonder what Reina is doing at the store. Seeing that it has been a while since they met, Reina asked Yuta how he was doing. Not expecting to meet Reina at the store, Yuta responded awkwardly to her question. Their conversation was then interrupted by Reina's friend, who asked about Yuta. When Reina's friend asked if she was going to buy the item, Yuta immediately hid the wallet that he was meaning to buy for Mayu. It is said that once a couple breaks up, they become strangers afterward. Right after Yuta and Reina broke up, Yuta could not bear the pain, as his chest hurt just by looking at Reina's picture. 2 months ago, Yuta broke up with Reina right after he saw her cheating. Since Reina did not make any excuses, Yuta assumed that Reina had already known her secret was revealed. When Yuta mentioned breaking up, Reina just nodded her head in silence. Remembering a painful event in his life, Yuta just stood silently near Reina and her friend. All of a sudden, Reina whispered in Yuta's ear, asking if they could meet again. Before Yuta could react, Ayaka immediately stepped in, asking Reina if she was serious. Seeing Ayaka in front of her, Reina felt scared and immediately left. As Yuta was about to apologize to Ayaka for what happened, Ayaka informed Yuta that she had tried being patient since Yuta was trying to keep his act together. However, seeing Yuta and Reina still irked Ayaka, which made her interrupt the conversation the two were about to have. Yuta explained that the woman was his ex-girlfriend, but Ayaka already knew who Reina was, as she had seen so many pictures of her. Admitting that Reina was cute, but that was all Ayaka could praise about her. Hearing Ayaka, Yuta thought that there were many good things about Reina besides her face. Yuta then wondered what Reina meant when she asked him if they could meet again. After some time, Yuta became exhausted from his brief confrontation with Reina, believing that he had received emotional damage. When Ayaka arrived and handed him the gift, Yuta asked Ayaka again if she was okay with paying everything at once. Ayaka then pointed out that she was the one who was supposed to thank Yuta as she gained a ton of points for paying all at once. When Yuta noticed another object besides Mayu's gift, Ayaka told him to try opening it. Yuta was surprised and thought the item was cool. Ayaka then explained that the item was her present for him. The item was a birthday present, as Ayaka figured that she had never given Yuta a birthday present before. Yuta's expression slowly brightened and he thanked Ayaka for the gift. Now that Yuta was cheered up, Ayaka told him that they better go, which left Yuta curious as to where they were headed. Ayaka then reminded Yuta of his promise, which he immediately remembered. Ayaka turned around suddenly and whispered to Yuta that it was her first time giving a man a present. In return, Ayaka wanted Yuta to show his gratitude with his actions and his money. Yuta realized that he was the first man to ever receive a present from Ayaka. Though his relationship with Ayaka never developed into a romantic one, nevertheless, Yuta was still happy with what they had. Yuta's heart, which had been shaken by suddenly meeting his ex-girlfriend, had been completely healed thanks to Ayaka. Parting ways with Ayaka after shopping, Yuta checked his wallet and realized that with the money he had left, he could no longer buy even a coffee. Arriving at his home, Yuta remembered Mayu's message, where she asked him to leave his key in the mailbox for her to enter. Walking up the stairs, Yuta thought that Mayu would be lounging around in his room reading a manga. Ayaka, on the other hand, turned around as she saw Yuta going up to his room. Upon opening the door, Yuta was welcomed by Mayu. After responding to Mayu's greeting, Yuta asked her what she was still doing so late at his home. After explaining to Yuta that she was just watching television, Mayu became surprised when Yuta asked what she was watching and immediately turned the television off. Throwing away the remote control, Mayu told Yuta that it was a secret and asked him not to pry into a girl's secrets. Yuta then clarified that he was not prying and just wanted to use the remote. Turning the television on, Yuta did not expect Mayu to be watching something girlish, which Mayu thought was quite rude of him to comment on. When Yuta asked Mayu why she was watching that show, Mayu explained how she was worried that maybe she was the odd one out. Confused, Yuta asked what she meant. Mayu revealed that she had told her friends how she and Yudu had broken up a month ago. Though her friends tried to comfort her, Mayu still felt that their words didn't really resonate with her. Mayu felt as if it was someone else's problem. At some point, Mayu just felt tired of hearing such words. Yuta then guessed that this was the reason Mayu's party ended early, even though it was her birthday. While forcing herself into a relationship with Yudu solely because she wanted to try being a couple, Mayu shared that she wasn't hurt by Yudu's cheating. Instead, she was hurt when she tried faking her behavior. When Mayu asked Yuta if she was odd, she felt somewhat relieved when Yuta said that maybe she was. Guessing that Mayu was still upset about what happened in her relationship, Yuta pointed out that even though her relationship started with the intent of an experiment, in the end, Mayu still got jealous when her boyfriend started seeing other girls. Mayu then reacted wildly, clarifying to Yuta that she only went out with Yudu because he was persistent and didn't expect to get cheated on. After being told by Yuta to calm down, Mayu wondered if she was an easy woman or an odd one. Listening to her, Yuta thought that while Mayu's way of thinking may not be understood by everyone, the reason she was struggling was that she was facing herself directly and worrying about it. Yuta told Mayu that everyone has their own way of thinking and advised her to just wait for the right encounter that might come someday. Mayu then pointed out to Yuta that she had waited, met someone, and got cheated on. When Yuta apologized for giving unhelpful advice, Mayu reminded him again that she was tired of hearing comforting words. She expressed her envy towards others, as she too wanted to be part of a loving couple. Listening to Mayu, Yuta suddenly remembered Reina. He then handed Mayu a bag, telling her it was a birthday present and that he hoped they would always get along. After receiving the present, Mayu felt touched and expressed that it was exactly what she liked. She thought Yuta was a genius for knowing her tastes. Yuta tried to explain that he knew what Mayu liked because they had spent so much time together, though in reality, it was Ayaka who helped him choose the present. Yuta was glad Mayu liked the gift and thought about how it suited her. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted when they heard the doorbell. When Mayu opened the door, Ayaka was shocked to see Mayu inside. Seeing the two women face each other, Yuta froze, unsure of what to do. Speechless, Yuta wonders how he will explain to Ayaka what is happening. Puzzled, Ayaka asks the two if they are dating. Yuta responded, telling Ayaka that Mayu and he are not dating, and that he would have told her first if her guess were true. Though Ayaka agrees with what Yuta said, she defends herself by saying that seeing Mayu in Yuta's home would naturally make anyone think the two are dating. Yuta then realizes that he has never told Ayaka that Mayu has been visiting his home recently. Yuta tells Ayaka that he would have explained the misunderstanding if it had been someone else. However, since the two know each other well, Ayaka knows that Yuta is telling the truth. Knowing he wouldn't have the capability to get a cute girlfriend in such a short time, Ayaka teases Yuta about it. Listening to the two talk, Mayu stays silent, which makes Yuta think things are all cleared up. However, to everyone's surprise, Mayu suddenly calls Ayaka impolite for visiting Yuta late at night. Ayaka responds that she doesn't want to be told off by someone who hangs out at a guy's house so late when they aren't even in a relationship. Yuta grows nervous as the two girls start to argue. He then reminds Mayu that she is speaking to her senior. After Mayu half-heartedly apologizes to Ayaka, Yuta notices how tense the mood between them has become, as he doesn't remember them acting this way at the Christmas Eve mixer party. Yuta then recalls that at the party, Mayu and Ayaka never spoke to each other. While Yuta is curious about what happened between them, Ayaka reassures him there's nothing to worry about, as Mayu has been her junior from way back. Though Yuta remembers Ayaka telling him that Mayu was her junior, he hadn't expected that Mayu was her junior long before college. Wondering about the reason for the tense atmosphere between them, Yuta notices Mayu clenching her fists tightly and tells her she has to stop. The two then apologize to each other for their behavior. Based on how Mayu and Yuta act, Ayaka is convinced that they really aren't dating. Seeing that the situation has somehow sorted itself out, Yuta mentions that the two are probably just tired and need rest. Before leaving, Ayaka explains that she was just dropping by. Yuta waves at Ayaka, telling her they will see each other at college. When Mayu notices Ayaka staring at her wallet, Mayu reveals that she received it from Yuta. Growing more nervous, Yuta had forgotten about the wallet. Commenting on how nice the wallet looks, Ayaka praises Yuta for improving his fashion sense. When Ayaka finally leaves, Yuta's demeanor changes as he wants to have a word with Mayu. When Mayu complains about the floor being too cold, Yuta tells her to bear with it since there's no such thing as a heated floor in his apartment. Pointing out Mayu's attitude, Yuta reminds her that Ayaka is still her senior. With a sad look, Mayu apologizes to Yuta for her behavior. Yuta then asks Mayu to stop making a sad face. Since Yuta doesn't know what happened between Mayu and Ayaka, he promises not to ask questions if Mayu acts normally. Mayu immediately becomes lively and announces that she will now act normal. Yuta scolds her for acting as if nothing happened, putting him in a troubling position earlier. Wearing her shoes, Mayu mentions that it's unusual for someone to let a girl go home just before the last train. Acknowledging the obvious, Yuta encourages her to move quickly so she won't miss it. Before leaving the house, Mayu asks Yuta if he really was concerned about why she acted rudely to Ayaka. Yuta again clarifies to Mayu that what happened between her and Ayaka is none of his business. Yuta knows that Mayu is trying to be cheerful, but after seeing her sad expression, he can't find the courage to ask what had happened. Facing Yuta, Mayu confesses that she likes his cold attitude. Her confession makes Yuta blush. Seeing that he remains silent, Mayu is a bit annoyed, having hoped for more of a reaction. After Mayu leaves the house, Yuta finally breathes a sigh of relief, hoping she won't say such things to him again. Knowing that others might get the wrong idea, Yuta thinks that Mayu probably didn't mean anything by what she said. Meanwhile, on the last train, Mayu thinks about Yuta's face while staring at the gift he bought her. She hugs the gift warmly. Meeting up with Ayaka, Yuta noticed that she looked in a bad mood. Ayaka told Yuta that she was fine, but Yuta could tell she wasn't. Staring at Ayaka, Yuta sensed an unapproachable aura coming from her. Yuta tried playing with Ayaka, telling her she didn't look fine. But when Ayaka told him to shut up, Yuta immediately apologized. Hearing Ayaka sigh, Yuta sensed she was serious and wondered if her bad mood was caused by what happened yesterday. Yuta assumed the misunderstanding about Mayu and him had been cleared up after seeing Ayaka's friendly interaction. He continued to pester Ayaka to find out why she was in a bad mood. Yuta tried apologizing again but was told by Ayaka that she wasn't angry, which Yuta could tell wasn't true. Ayaka then mentioned she had to get ready for class, which was about to start in 20 minutes. Yuta was surprised, as he had known Ayaka as the type not to get ready for class. Ayaka explained there was a test next period, which was an exception to her usual behavior. Yuta was starting to get annoyed since Ayaka wasn't talking to him at all. All of a sudden, Ayaka advised Yuta to quit smoking, which surprised him, and he responded that it was his choice. Ayaka shared her opinion that smoking didn't suit Yuta. Yuta became embarrassed when Ayaka kept telling him that cigarettes didn't suit him. When Ayaka mentioned that Mayu might not like a person who smokes, Yuta became confused. Stating her opinion, Ayaka said that many girls don't like the smell of cigarettes. Yuta had never thought of the smell as a problem since he didn't smoke at home and had never smoked in front of Mayu. Listening to Yuta, Ayaka thought Yuta was making it sound like Mayu was at his house all the time. Yuta was unable to answer Ayaka since Mayu had been visiting his home lately. Ayaka was getting annoyed with Yuta as he kept asking why she was in a bad mood. Ayaka then told Yuta he had a lot of nerve being pushy and wasn't afraid of being hated by her. Ayaka was surprised when Yuta told her he was genuinely worried about her since she was his friend. Having been friends with Yuta for 4 to 5 years, Ayaka believed she could no longer hide her secret from Yuta. Since it bothered him so much, Ayaka promised to tell him, but Yuta would first have to get her a cafe latte from a vending machine. Yuta was getting more curious after seeing Ayaka's facial expression and wondered if there was a reason she couldn't tell him. After taking a sip of her cafe latte, Ayaka slammed her beverage down, telling Yuta she couldn't forgive the guys who never showed up for class, but asked her to show them her notes. Yuta was still confused after Ayaka revealed what was bothering her. As Ayaka explained the situation and what put her in a bad mood, Yuta suggested that Ayaka ask for payment from the students who requested her notes. However, Ayaka didn't want to ask for money, believing it wasn't worth the effort. Upon learning that some students were taking advantage of Ayaka, Yuta understood if Ayaka had reached her tipping point, as she was the type to be friends with everyone. After learning what was bothering Ayaka, Yuta realized he was also part of the problem since he was one of the idiots who took advantage of Ayaka's notes. Yuta admitted he often didn't attend lectures because he wasn't a morning person, or was just being lazy. Every time he missed lectures, he would borrow Ayaka's notes. Even when Yuta did attend lectures, he would still borrow her notes because he learned more from them. Yuta could only remember returning the favor a few times. Listening to Ayaka complain, Yuta felt guilt hitting him all at once. Unable to take it anymore, Yuta apologized to Ayaka, ashamed of being one of those who took advantage of her. Yuta didn't expect it when Ayaka told him she didn't mind lending her notes to him. When Yuta asked why she was fine with it, Ayaka told him she didn't know either, and guessed she got something out of lending her notes to him. When Yuta asked what she meant, Ayaka told him he would owe her, and she would use that to her advantage. The two then parted with Ayaka in a slightly better mood. During class, Yuta took the exam with extreme focus. However, after the exam, he felt like his life had ended in many ways. Yuta told Ayaka he couldn't solve the question, which surprised her since she had already pointed out some possible questions for him. Wondering if Yuta would be okay, Ayaka revealed that they would be throwing a party tomorrow to say goodbye to all the tests they had taken. Ayaka then asked Yuta if he was interested in tagging along, as it had been a while since he went out with a big group. Realizing Ayaka was right, Yuta was surprised at how quickly Ayaka had already sent him a form to join. Since the party was an open club, Ayaka was sure Yuta would have fun once he had a few drinks. Now that they were free for a while, Ayaka suggested they enjoy their long spring break. Yuta agreed, as they had 2 months of spring break. Ayaka remembered she was going on a trip with her club and told Yuta how she was looking forward to it. Remembering Ayaka was in an outdoor club, Yuta asked if she was going to the mountains. Ayaka shared that they would be going to an onsen and eating crabs, which left Yuta confused since he couldn't see the trip as an outdoor activity. When Ayaka asked Yuta if he had been going to his club lately, Yuta told her he hadn't. For Yuta, the basketball club was a cozy place with a moderately serious atmosphere, but there were some people who knew his ex-girlfriend. Ever since the affair, Yuta didn't want to be questioned about the breakup. He hadn't shown up at the basketball club for the past 2 months. Ayaka advised Yuta to visit his club, sure it would help him unwind. Agreeing with Ayaka, Yuta messaged his teammate saying he planned to visit the club again. As the two went their separate ways, Yuta suddenly received a message from Mayu asking if they could meet. Calling Yuta, Mayu asked if he would like to have lunch with her. Yuta refused Mayu's offer since he was planning to visit his club for the first time in a while. Mayu was a bit disappointed, as she had already turned down her friend's lunch invitation. For her own convenience, Mayu believed Yuta should accompany her since he was a good senpai. Yuta had no choice but to accept Mayu's lunch invitation. When Yuta and Mayu met up, Yuta noticed how Mayu attracted lots of attention. When Mayu asked where they would have lunch, Yuta mentioned his plans to go to his club and hoped Mayu would allow him to go. Mayu outright refused but then came up with a solution, telling Yuta she could just go to his club, which surprised Yuta. He pleaded with her not to go. Mayu was looking forward to watching Yuta play basketball and wondered how he would perform. Yuta could only hope Mayu's visit wouldn't cause any misunderstandings. Visiting his club, Yuta thanked his teammate Tudu Masato for lending him his gym uniform. Tudu mentioned how it had been a while since he saw Yuta at the gym and believed it was because he got dumped by his girlfriend. Yuta then tried to clarify with Tudu that he didn't just get dumped. Yuta had been friends with Tudu since they first entered college and he felt comfortable hanging around him. Yuta reminded Tudu that he got cheated on, and that reason alone made Yuta think about how lame it was. Yuta then wanted to make sure that they left the conversation with him dumping his ex. Agreeing with Yuta that getting cheated on was lame, Tudu praised him for dumping his ex-girlfriend before it was too late. Tudu then pointed to the girl standing by the entrance as he noticed that she had been looking at them for a while. It was revealed that the girl was none other than Mayu, who attracted attention from all the boys at the gym. Yuta had forgotten that he brought Mayu with him and explained to Tudu that the girl was his junior. When Tudu asked if she was Yuta's new girlfriend, Yuta responded that Mayu was not his girlfriend. Tudu believed Yuta's words as he knew Yuta wouldn't want to get a girlfriend so soon. Listening to Tudu, Yuta thought about how he also wanted to have a girlfriend again. But he couldn't help being hesitant about dating after what he had recently experienced with Reina. When Tudu asked about Ayaka, Yuta told him again that it was a different story with Ayaka and that they were just close friends. Though Yuta kept saying they were just friends, it made Tudu unable to understand his logic. Tudu was curious as to how Yuta could stay friends with such a beautiful woman and not fall in love with her. Yuta tried putting Tudu in his position, but Tudu clarified that it would be impossible for him to fall in love with a friend since he already had a girlfriend. Praising Mayu's looks, Tudu asked Yuta how he met such a cute junior, to which Yuta responded that he just bumped into her. Showing a smile, Yuta then approached Mayu. Entering the gym, Mayu commented on how she had always liked the smell inside the gym. Seeing the guys play basketball so intensely, Yuta could immediately tell that the cause of the sudden behavior was none other than Mayu. When Mayu asked where she should go, Yuta pointed to the second floor and told her she could watch from there by herself. Pulling Yuta, Mayu complained that it was too far, and asked if she couldn't watch from up close, as she believed watching basketball up close was much better. Yuta warned Mayu that it was dangerous on the first floor, as there was a possibility that a ball or something could come flying toward her. Mayu was unable to refute this since Yuta had a point but still didn't want to watch from so far away as she would feel lonely. Seeing Mayu act like a kid, Yuta suggested that Mayu join them, as she could participate in their club even without any experience. Looking at Mayu's expression, Yuta asks what was wrong and if he was mistaken in thinking that Mayu liked basketball. Seeing that Mayu was hesitant, Yuta did not want to force her into anything and agreed to let her watch from the first floor. Surprised that Yuta agreed, Mayu's mood shifted as she thanked him. When Yuta told her that she really was still too young, Mayu got annoyed and asked if he thought she looked old. Patting Mayu's head, Yuta told her that wasn't what he meant. Seeing Mayu's expression, Yuta realized he may have done something wrong and immediately apologized. He remembered that Yuta had done the exact same thing, and Mayu hadn't liked it. To Yuta's surprise, Mayu didn't get mad and even told him that if it was him, she would allow it. As Yuta's face turned red, he didn't realize that he had already fallen for Mayu's devilish charm. The two then approached Tudu after he called them over. Mayu introduced herself to Tudu. After Tudu introduced himself, Yuta mentioned that Mayu wanted to watch from the first floor and asked if it was fine with him. Tudu didn't see a problem with it and even thought that having Mayu closer would motivate the guys even more. Tudu then asked Mayu to come with him for a second and told Yuta to get some practice since he was a pain for the team. Embarrassed, Yuta responded that he wasn't a pain for the team. While dribbling at the other end of the court, Yuta was greeted by other members of the club who teased him for having a new girlfriend after getting dumped. Yuta greeted them back and explained that Mayu was just his junior to clear up any misunderstanding. Most people in the club knew that Yuta had been cheated on by his girlfriend before they broke up. Since Yuta didn't want to be pestered about it, he had avoided visiting the club. To Yuta's surprise, everyone's reaction was so positive that he wondered if his anxiety had been unfounded, or if enough time had simply passed. Yuta became happy after making a shot but was surprised when his eyes were suddenly covered. Seeing that it was Mayu, Yuta was curious as to why she was wearing a jersey. Mayu suddenly asked Yuta about the #1 situation with a girl that athletic guys long for. After receiving a hint from Mayu, Yuta thought it was taking an Instagram photo with a mannequin. Mayu immediately told him that he was wrong and wondered how he had come up with such an answer. She then revealed the answer, which was having a cute manager in the club. Since Yuta was wrong, Mayu told him he could try answering again in his next life. Watching Yuta shoot the ball into the hoop, Mayu was amazed at how good he was, even though it had been a while since he came to the gym. When Yuta asked Mayu if Tudu had asked her to be a manager, Mayu explained that Tudu thought it would be boring if she just watched, and offered her the chance to try being a manager. Mayu could not hide her excitement as it was her first time becoming a manager. With a plain reaction, Yuta simply told her not to get in the way. Closing her eyes and shooting the ball, Mayu hit the rim, causing the ball to bounce back and hit her on the head. After getting knocked down, Mayu called out to Yuta, telling him she hated basketball. But Yuta didn't care whether she hated the sport or not. Stretching out her arms, Mayu asked Yuta to pull her up, and to her surprise, Yuta easily lifted her by grabbing her arm. Calling Yuta a pervert, Mayu pointed out that she had held out her hands but didn't expect Yuta to grab her arm, making her think Yuta was a strange person. Yuta explained that it felt weird for him to hold hands, but Mayu refuted, insisting that grabbing her upper arm was 100 times worse. Yuta was unable to respond as he thought about how thin and soft Mayu's arm was. Mayu removed her hair tie, repositioned it, and tied it differently. She then asked Yuta how she looked. Mesmerized by her appearance, Yuta praised her cuteness. However, Mayu was a bit disappointed since all Yuta said was that she was cute. Almost falling for Mayu's devilish charm again, Yuta now understood why men were drawn to her. Pestering Yuta, Mayu asked him if he could be more descriptive with his compliments. Observing the two, Tudu smiled. After some time, Tudu approached Yuta, handing him a bottle of water and commenting on how popular his girlfriend was. Yuta reminded Tudu again that Mayu was not his girlfriend, but Tudu wondered if that was true. Though Mayu didn't seem to be good at basketball, Yuta thought it would be interesting if she joined the club. He shared his thoughts with Tudu, speculating that Mayu probably wouldn't become a manager. Agreeing with Yuta, Tudu was still impressed that Mayu participated right away, even though she had no reason to. Yuta was certain that Mayu only helped out to pass the time. He realized that he had been spending more time with her and accepted that Mayu likely thought of hanging out with him as just a way to pass time, which he believed was why she felt comfortable coming over to his house. Tudu was even more impressed with Mayu after learning that she was willing to do all kinds of things just to pass the time. He advised Yuta to learn from her and lighten up. Yuta responded by telling Tudu that there was no need, as being himself was what felt most comfortable. Agreeing, Tudu expressed how glad he was that Yuta had gotten back on his feet. After leaving the gym, Mayu and Yuta headed to a cafe, where Mayu was very pleased to eat sweets. Yuta was glad to see her happy and suggested she relax and enjoy the meal since it was his treat. Mayu was surprised as she thought they had agreed that she would be the one to treat him. Yuta was sure that Mayu was exhausted from suddenly participating in the club and having to act as a manager. No longer refusing the offer, Mayu thanked Yuta for treating her. She thought it was adorable to see Yuta enjoying himself while playing basketball, and expressed how much fun she had watching him play. Yuta would have preferred if Mayu had said that he looked cool, but Mayu explained that if a woman tells a man he looked adorable, it's considered a high compliment. Having so much fun reminded Mayu of her time in the basketball club. Yuta was surprised, as he didn't know that Mayu had been part of a basketball club. Seeing Yuta's expression, Mayu immediately realized that he was underestimating her. She told him that she used to be really good, though she couldn't compare to Ayaka. Yuta hadn't expected to hear Ayaka's name, especially in the context of her having been in a basketball club. In high school, Yuta had asked Ayaka if she ever joined a club, but she had only told him that she was in the Go Home Club since middle school because she liked having time to herself. Noticing Yuta's confused expression, Mayu realized Ayaka hadn't told him about her past. When Yuta asked what she meant, Mayu brushed it off, saying it was nothing. Part of Yuta wanted to ask more about Ayaka's past, but he hesitated to press Mayu for details. In the end, he decided that he would ask Ayaka about it himself. Once they finished eating, Mayu suggested they go to Yuta's place and hang out like they always did. She then mentioned feeling like cooking something special for Yuta's dinner at her own expense. Although Yuta wasn't particularly excited about doing the same thing they usually did, he agreed after hearing that Mayu would cook something special. Later that night, Yuta was washing the dishes while talking to Ayaka on the phone. Mid-conversation, Yuta interrupted Ayaka, suggesting they talk about the matter again when they were back at college, as he remembered something urgent. Guessing that Yuta was just going to surf the net, Ayaka told him he could do whatever he wanted. Continuing the conversation, Ayaka asked if Yuta was still doing the dishes, as she couldn't hear him over the sound of running water. Noticing that Yuta had been washing dishes longer than usual, Ayaka pointed it out, causing Yuta to freeze as he remembered that Mayu had used a lot of dishes while cooking for him. Yuta explained that he had been putting things off during test week and told Ayaka she had no idea what it was like to live alone. Feeling underestimated, Ayaka confidently told Yuta that she could handle all the housework, even during test week. When she offered to help clean his house, Yuta was excited at first but quickly realized that Mayu and Ayaka would probably just end up arguing instead of helping. When Yuta declined the offer, Ayaka playfully told him that she would have gone to help if he had agreed, leaving Yuta speechless. Having known Ayaka since high school and spent so much time with her, Yuta wondered why she had hidden her basketball past from him. He was worried that bringing it up might create tension in their relationship. Finally, Yuta mentioned that he had learned Ayaka played basketball back in middle school. Ayaka froze and then asked Yuta who had told him that. Yuta becomes worried and asks Ayaka if he said something wrong. When Ayaka responded that it's not bad but unable to explain the reason, Yuta notices how Ayaka is being unusually vague, making him think she's afraid of something. Yuta wanted to tell Ayaka that she didn't have to tell him if she didn't want to. Yuta believes that Ayaka hid something from him because they're very close. Back in high school, Yuta had seen many boys trying to make connections to Ayaka with ulterior motives. Although Ayaka dealt with it casually, Yuta still saw her fiddling with her phone like she was bored. Back then, Yuta thought to himself how pretense wouldn't work on someone like Ayaka. For Ayaka, Yuta must remain genuine, with no pretense. From the day he started talking to Ayaka, Yuta decided to have a straightforward relationship with her. Yuta feels a bit sad for not knowing something about his friend. Picking up his phone, Yuta changed his mind and told Ayaka that if she didn't want to share, he would pester her until she told her secret. Surprised by Yuta's answer, Ayaka thought he was an idiot. Ayaka is unable to share what happened before when she was part of the basketball club right now. But when the time is right, she promised to reveal what happened. Yuta felt happy as Ayaka sounded like she was about to reveal the secret. Ayaka promised that she would and hoped Yuta would wait for her and not say a word, which Yuta agreed to. When Ayaka asked Yuta why he suddenly asked about her past with the basketball club, she was pleased to hear that the reason was simple and not for some reason for her own good. Knowing Ayaka, Yuta knows she does not like that kind of nonsense. Hearing Yuta tell her that they've always spoken to each other honestly, Ayaka suddenly told Yuta that she loves him, which puzzled Yuta a bit. When Ayaka completed her sentence telling Yuta that she loved that side of him, Yuta felt moved. Normally, Yuta would have misunderstood Ayaka. Yuta no longer wondered why men fell for her if she kept saying such things. When Yuta pointed out to Ayaka the way she speaks, he was surprised when Ayaka revealed that she is only like that with Yuta alone. When Ayaka clarified that she's not that sly to say those things to anyone else, Yuta realized Ayaka was right but asked her why she said it to him. Yuta became even more confused when Ayaka told him that she didn't know either, blaming her mood. Ayaka's mood changed again for the better as she ended the call abruptly, which annoyed Yuta. The next day, Yuta was surprised as he did not expect the drinking party to be so huge. When Yuta approached Ayaka, he did not expect that she would suddenly grab his hands, which made him ask Ayaka what she was doing. Realizing that she was now holding Yuta's hands, Ayaka explained that she was just trying to hang his coat. Interrupting their conversation was Natsuki, who thought Yuta was getting along with Ayaka quite well. Meeting each other again after the Christmas mixer party, Natsuki had been looking forward to seeing Yuta again after learning from Ayaka that he would be attending. The two immediately talked about the latest episode of Hijajushi. When Natsuki asked Yuta what club he's in, Yuta responded that he's currently in the basketball club, but only goes when he feels like it. Upon hearing Yuta's answer, Natsuki suggested he join their club. Natsuki was insistent that Yuta join them even halfway, as it was one way to get in through connections. When Natsuki revealed that Ayaka would become the club's vice president next year, Yuta was surprised at how well Ayaka was doing. Yuta then told Natsuki that he would think about her offer. After Ayaka handed out the drinks, a man called everyone's attention, praising everyone for doing their best with the exams. After livening the mood, the man revealed that he and the third-year students would be retiring next month and wanted the next president to take the lead moving forward. The man, known as Itsuki, was told that the next president would not be coming to the party. Shocked by the sudden news, Itsuki was left with no other choice but to call on the next vice president instead. Standing in front of everyone, Ayaka raised a toast, congratulating them for doing a good job on the test. Seeing Ayaka interact with the other students, making them happy, Yuta thought of her as someone truly amazing. Back in the day, people would talk about Ayaka, saying she was a person hard to get along with, but after seeing what Ayaka has become now, Yuta believes it's the result of the relationships Ayaka has nurtured through her own efforts. Natsuki then called out Yuta for staring at Ayaka too much, not even acknowledging her presence after returning from the restroom. As Yuta apologized, Natsuki understood why Yuta stared at Ayaka, since it couldn't be helped to admire her. Not only is Ayaka beautiful, but she is also the sun that shines on everyone. Yuta laughed, agreeing with Natsuki's statement. Natsuki then revealed that their club selects members based on their looks, which is why they have lots of cute girl members. Yuta thought the outdoor club was crazy for choosing its members for their looks. Not expecting Yuta's reaction, Natsuki asked Yuta if he didn't like that kind of thing. When Yuta shared his opinion on the matter, Natsuki revealed that Ayaka also felt the same as Yuta about the selection of members. Yuta didn't expect Ayaka's opinion, even though she's the vice president of the club. Most of the people who joined the club didn't know about the selection process, and only found out about it later. Natsuki found it very ironic that Ayaka hated their selection process, commenting that Ayaka was the one who benefited the most from it. Realizing she might have shared something bad with Yuta, Natsuki immediately apologized. Yuta understood Natsuki as there are others who think differently. When Natsuki shared how Ayaka is a really nice person, Yuta responded that he would no longer comment on it since they were at a drinking party. Yuta knows that Ayaka already expected to hear such remarks about her. Getting angry at a drinking party on Ayaka's behalf wouldn't help her. Yuta wondered if Ayaka would get mad if someone said something about him behind his back. Yuta became surprised when Natsuki suddenly asked him if he was going out with Ayaka. Clearing the misunderstanding again, Yuta repeated that he is not in a relationship with Ayaka. Natsuki then mentioned that if Yuta did end up getting a girlfriend, Ayaka might think that he's cheating on her. Confused by the topic, Yuta noticed how Natsuki was really pushing him and Ayaka. Yuta received a message from Mayu, asking when he would come home, as she planned to visit him since she was just nearby. However, Mayu became annoyed when Yuta messaged her back, telling her to go home since he would be coming home late. Seeing Yuta's expression change, Natsuki guessed that Yuta was messaging a girl. Surprised, Yuta asked how Natsuki thought it was a girl. Natsuki just told Yuta that she could somehow tell. Suddenly, Yuta received a call which surprised him. Yuta then apologized and excused himself to answer the call. Seeing Yuta leave, Natsuki teased him for being so popular with the ladies. Believing the caller to be Mayu, Yuta wondered if she called to protest. However, Yuta was surprised when he saw that it was not Mayu, but an unknown caller. After answering the call, Yuta was shocked to learn that the person on the other line was none other than his ex-girlfriend, Reina. While everyone was having fun at the party, Yuta was having difficulty responding to Reina. It had been a while since they last spoke on the phone, and Reina assumed that Yuta had already blocked her online. Yuta had thought of blocking Reina right after they broke up, but he never expected Reina to call him again. Yuta mentioned that he was currently at a drinking party and asked Reina to say what she needed to say. Reina replied that she had already told Yuta what she wanted, reminding him that she wanted them to meet again. Remembering when Reina had whispered to him, Yuta thought she was just being polite. He immediately declined the offer, which made Reina ask why. Unable to believe she would even ask, Yuta wanted to tell her that they were already over but remained silent instead. All of a sudden, Ayaka appeared at the door looking for Yuta but immediately apologized upon realizing he was on the phone. Hearing the voices on the other end, Reina became curious and asked if it was his girlfriend and what he was up to. When Yuta mentioned that he just occasionally went to the club, Reina realized he was the same as ever. Hearing such words from Reina, Yuta couldn't believe that was all she had to say after dating for so long. Yuta believed their relationship should have ended after they broke up 2 months ago when Reina cheated on him. However, to Yuta's surprise, they were still talking. Shaking his head, Yuta knew he had to cut off any connection with Reina now, or he would never be able to move on. With a change of tone, Yuta told Reina that they had nothing to do with each other anymore and asked that she not contact him again. While everyone else was enjoying the party, Yuta, on the other hand, felt pain. Just as Yuta was about to end the call, he was surprised when Reina told him she had not cheated on him. Yuta became confused and wondered what she would call what he saw if it wasn't cheating. When Ayaka approached Yuta, he immediately told her not to ask when she was about to say something. Accepting Yuta's wish, Ayaka assured him she wouldn't pry, but still asked if he was okay. After seeing Ayaka's smile, Yuta replied that he was fine. With the rain still pouring down hard, Yuta was now at his home, reading Ayaka's message that the rest of them were headed to a karaoke bar. Mayu, who was also at Yuta's house, told him that she was almost done with the dishes. Since she had also finished the laundry, Mayu advised Yuta to just lay back and relax, to which Yuta was very grateful. Mayu then teased Yuta, saying he was lucky since he had just been killing time at the convenience store. Yuta responded by telling her that she should be sorry for barging into his home late at night. Despite his conversation with Reina earlier, Yuta believed he could still enjoy the party. However, Reina's last words lingered in his mind, making him wonder what she meant. Not wanting to dwell on it, Yuta covered his eyes. Sensing that something was wrong, Mayu tried to get his attention, knowing the usual Yuta would have scolded her by now. When Yuta didn't respond and just turned his back, Mayu became worried and kept pestering him. With Mayu's hand on his face, Yuta felt he didn't need to think about his problems for the moment. Commenting on how nice her hand felt because it was cold, Mayu replied that it should be cold since she had just washed the dishes. She then teased and comforted Yuta in her own way. With Mayu's hand still on his face, Yuta asked if she wanted to stay the night. Yuta wasn't sure if it was because of the alcohol he'd consumed, or because he'd always harbored the desire for her to stay. To Yuta's unintentional invitation, it didn't take long for Mayu to respond. Growing more playful, Mayu asked if he was okay with her staying even though she hadn't brought a change of clothes. Yuta was shocked when Mayu suddenly pulled out his clothes from the drawer. Mayu found it crazy that Yuta would let her stay in his home until the last train of the day. Mayu then tells Yuta to relax, as she just wants to fix the mess and will refold the clothes and put them back in. Yuta becomes somewhat relieved after hearing Mayu's explanation. Grabbing one of Yuta's clothes, she asked him if she could borrow it. Yuta agreed and apologized to Mayu for not having any women's stuff. Mayu did not mind and even thought it would be creepy if he had women's things in his house. Mayu confirmed with Yuta that he didn't really have a girlfriend, which relieved her since she was staying the night. Yuta revealed to her that he currently does not have a girlfriend as he had just recently broken up with his ex-girlfriend. Not expecting Yuta's revelation, Mayu asked how long Yuta and his ex-girlfriend were together. When Yuta mentioned that it was about a year, Mayu commented that it was pretty long since her relationship had lasted only 3 months. Hearing Yuta's response, Mayu thought he was judging her. Seeing Mayu laugh, Yuta's mood brightened. After some time, Yuta fell asleep on his bed while Mayu was taking a shower. Waking up from his nap, Yuta realized he had accidentally fallen asleep. Now wearing Yuta's clothes, Mayu asked if she had woken him up. Surprised and turning red, Yuta immediately turned around. Yuta's reaction made Mayu worry, and she advised him to drink some water, but Yuta refused. After seeing Mayu in front of him, wearing his clothes and fresh out of the bath, Yuta would normally be thrilled. However, he was still feeling the headache from all the drinking at the party. Mayu became annoyed after receiving a bland reaction from Yuta. As Mayu was about to say something, Yuta cut her off, finishing what she was about to say before thanking her for the treat and saying goodnight. Yuta became momentarily blinded by the light when Mayu removed his blanket. Feeling something cold on his face, Mayu explained that it was a hangover reliever she had bought at the convenience store earlier. After drinking it, Yuta told her that it was dangerous to go out late at night. Mayu pointed out how she didn't want to hear such a lecture from someone who wouldn't let her stay over when it was already late at night. After receiving thanks from Yuta for the hangover reliever, Mayu was surprised when Yuta commented on how cute she looked, even without makeup. Mayu became happy and gave Yuta 100 points, explaining that girls love those types of compliments. When Yuta asked what kind of compliment was 0 points, Mayu revealed that if someone mentioned they were cuter without makeup. When Yuta asked for the reason, Mayu explained that it would make girls like her question why they were putting on makeup in the first place. Mayu became annoyed since there are many people who would say to girls that they look cute without makeup, not getting the girl's point. Seeing Mayu acting out, Yuta tried to calm her and suggested that they sleep. While Mayu was blow-drying her hair, Yuta realized that Mayu was really staying over for the night, which made him a little nervous. Mayu was surprised when Yuta appeared behind her. Yuta then told Mayu that there was a makeup cleanser on the top shelf and that she was free to use it. Mayu told Yuta not to spook her as she thought he was a ghost for a second. Yuta didn't expect that Mayu would be afraid of ghosts, which Mayu pointed out as everyone is afraid of them. When Yuta told Mayu that he had the ability to sense ghosts, Mayu was surprised, wondering if Yuta was serious or still drunk. When Yuta was about to share an experience he had in the 3rd grade, Mayu ran away, as she did not want to hear it and would rather go to sleep. Seeing how fast Mayu ran away, Yuta then revealed that he was just joking. Covering herself with the blanket, Mayu told Yuta that she really couldn't stand ghosts. If Yuta tried to scare her again, Mayu promised never to cook for him again. Taken aback, Yuta apologized. Mayu then clarified to Yuta that there are no ghosts because ghosts are nothing but misunderstandings and misperceptions. Laying down separately, Mayu called for Yuta, saying that he was too far. However, Yuta felt that it was the right distance, 2 meters apart. Seeing the clock read around 3:30, Yuta found himself unable to sleep, as he could not forget the look on Mayu's face. Yuta thought of himself as pathetic for getting nervous and being unable to calm down. When Yuta tried to call for Mayu, he immediately assumed she was already asleep, since she was not responding. Mayu then turned to Yuta, telling him she was about to fall asleep. Apologizing for interrupting her sleep, Yuta became surprised when Mayu suddenly suggested they sleep together. Yuta turns his back on Mayu and tells her that he can't share a bed with a junior that he's not even dating. Mayu thought Yuta's line of thinking was cool and suggested that he sleep already. But Yuta is still unable to get to sleep. After asking Yuta to just lie on the bed with her, Mayu then got out of bed and dragged Yuta over, and the two ended up sharing the bed together. Unable to face Mayu, Yuta turns his back on her. Surprised, Mayu decides to sleep against the wall and asks Yuta not to kick her while he's asleep. Yuta responds to Mayu that he's not such a restless sleeper. Even with his back turned, Yuta can still feel Mayu's warmth, breath, and scent, which only makes it harder for him to fall asleep. However, he also feels something comforting. When Mayu tells Yuta that he's a responsible man, Yuta responds that a truly responsible man wouldn't let a woman he's not in a relationship with stay over at his place. When Mayu agrees with Yuta's statement, Yuta can tell that Mayu isn't fully convinced. Although Mayu can sense that Yuta doesn't want to discuss the matter openly, she still asks him the reason he broke up with his ex-girlfriend. Understanding that Yuta may have told her something sensitive due to being drunk, Mayu is still glad that he told her about it. When Yuta asks why she feels glad, Mayu explains how she feels that Yuta trusts her more. Listening to Mayu, Yuta realizes he hadn't thought much about what he said when he told her. When Mayu tells Yuta that she's seen a side of him he doesn't show to other people, Yuta suddenly thinks of Ayaka. The fact that he knew a side of Ayaka that not everyone does, Yuta reflects on it as proof of Ayaka's trust in him. Realizing he's shared something personal with Mayu, Yuta thinks he has also gotten comfortable with her. Sitting up, Mayu mentions how much she's thought about the matter, but it still bothers her. Mayu asks Yuta if something happened between him and his ex. When Mayu tells Yuta that he still doesn't trust her, Yuta thinks the question is unfair and points out that trust and not talking are two different things. For him, trust isn't the problem. He simply doesn't think discussing his past relationship will lead to anything. Yuta would rather forget about Reina as soon as possible. Yuta then points out to Mayu that if he didn't trust her, he wouldn't have let her stay over. To make his point, Yuta asks Mayu if she would tell someone she trusts everything. Seeing Yuta's point, Mayu finally understands that sharing something personal is also different from trusting someone. Mayu guesses that everyone is like that, which is a comforting thought. She also shares that she is like that, and is sure that Yuta has things he doesn't want to share. Listening to Mayu, Yuta wonders if she's talking about Ayaka or something else, unsure if he should ask further. Remembering his conversation with Ayaka, Yuta realizes that it's because people care so much about each other that they want the other person to share their feelings with them. Yuta is also sure that Mayu feels the same way. Mayu suddenly tells Yuta that she has made up her mind. When Yuta asks about it, Mayu says she plans to make Yuta like her even more. Surprised, Yuta asks why she's suddenly saying such things. Mayu feels frustrated that even though she has already spent so much time with Yuta, he still doesn't open up to her. Mayu wishes to have a relationship with Yuta that makes him open up to her. As the two lie on the bed and say their goodnights, Yuta is surprised when Mayu suddenly hugs him from behind. When Mayu mentions that her heart is pounding, Yuta responds that she's the one who suddenly hugged him. When Mayu mentions that it's her first time, she becomes embarrassed when Yuta asks what she means. Covering herself with a blanket, Mayu tells Yuta that it's a secret. After a month of knowing and spending time with Mayu, Yuta realizes how much Mayu has become a part of his daily life, and he can no longer separate his life from hers. He's surprised at how fast Mayu falls asleep. Patting her head, Yuta feels certain that starting the next day, Mayu will be even more involved in his daily life. Seeing his old school, Yuta reminisced. Though Yuta has no complaints about his current carefree college life, he still wonders why he's dreaming about his old school. In the past, Yuta was tied down by club activities and had no freedom. Yuta felt small, but at the same time high school felt so big to him. High school wasn't always fun for Yuta, as he had so many bitter memories. However, he is sure of one thing. High school life was important in shaping who he is. Seeing Ayaka in his dream, Yuta understood why she had such an expression on her face. When Yuta finally woke up, he felt like he had some kind of dream. Not wanting to think about the dream anymore, Yuta turns to his side. Yuta became curious as he felt something in his hand. When Yuta finally looks at what he is holding, he is surprised to learn that it was Mayu's chest. Realizing that Mayu is asleep, Yuta wonders what she is doing on his bed. Yuta then remembered that Mayu visited him late at night. Staring at his hand, Yuta thought about how defenseless Mayu was. He was then surprised by Mayu waking up, mentioning that it was vexing. After the two greeted each other with a good morning, Yuta asked Mayu what got her so vexed. Mayu apologizes as she forgot to make breakfast. Yuta didn't mind and told Mayu that it was fine. Mayu was a bit sad since she came early but still missed making breakfast. Mayu then asked Yuta if he touched her chest earlier, as she felt like she woke up because she felt a squeeze. Immediately hiding his hand, Yuta apologizes and admits to touching Mayu's chest. Mayu then becomes mad as Yuta just brushed off what he did like nothing. Stepping over Yuta, Mayu then told him that she would fix a breakfast for him. After that one night, the distance between Yuta and Mayu grew even closer, and the two spent more of their spring break together at Yuta's place. While having their meal, Yuta asks Mayu what her plans are, and if she's headed home after having breakfast. Mayu was not sure, but since she's free for the day, she thought of just staying at Yuta's place. Yuta immediately refused the idea as he wanted to enjoy his freedom. Yuta knows that spring break is long, but he points out to Mayu that she shouldn't be spending all of her time in his house. While Yuta wonders if he had plans set up for the day, Mayu then tells Yuta that since she visited him early, Yuta will have to hang out with her for the whole day. Yuta agreed, and plans to take Mayu somewhere special. As the two visited the gymnasium, Mayu's excitement immediately went away as she did not expect that they would visit the club again. After Yuta greeted his club members, he heard Mayu and told her not to sound disappointed since it's rude. Mayu then complained as she thought that Yuta would be taking her somewhere special. Yuta apologizes for raising her hopes up. Mayu becomes happy again when Yuta mentions that he will make her manager again as an apology. Mayu's happy expression once again vanished and asked Yuta if he actually understands what an apology means. Left with no other choice, Mayu goes to the locker room to change. Mayu then asks Yuta to tell Tudu that she will be borrowing his jersey, which Yuta agreed. After changing his own clothes, Yuta approaches Tudu and was asked by him when was the last time he came to 2 practices in a row. Yuta only stopped going to the circle after he broke up with Reina. Yuta then responded to Tudu that it was around half a year ago. Agreeing with Yuta about the date, Tudu then points out how Yuta now wants to show Mayu off to everyone, to which Yuta immediately responds that it's not true. Tudu knows that Yuta is not much of an attention seeker, since Yuta would have brought Ayaka with him a long time ago if that was the case. Although Yuta and Ayaka have been friends with each other since high school, Ayaka has never joined Yuta's group after entering college. Even when Yuta was dating Reina, Ayaka never once asked to meet Reina. Yuta then told Tudu how he thinks that Ayaka would not visit the gym, which surprised Tudu. Ayaka gave off an impression as a proactive person, which Todo thought of since Ayaka is open to everyone. Yuta thought about how things had changed for Ayaka and was sure that only a few people at the university knew what Ayaka was like before. Receiving a notification on his phone, Yuta saw that it was from Natsuki, inviting him to join them for a Valentine's party. Upon seeing that it was only for couples, Yuta became nervous and decided to just pass on the offer. Now playing basketball, the game becomes intense as the scores of the two teams were not that far apart. Todo was able to score a point for the team after a good pass from Yuta. Seeing that they could catch up, Yuta wondered if they could turn the game around. Yuta was surprised when the opposing team made a lob pass over him, decreasing the distance between the shooter and the ring. With Yuta's effort, he was able to deflect the ball away from the opposing team. Seeing Todo open, Yuta then passed it to him, giving another score for their team. As Yuta cheered for Todo for saving the game for them, he was confused when Todo gave an odd expression. Mayu then approached Yuta, handing him a towel and praising him for the steal and assists, which Mayu believes is enough for Yuta to become the MVP. Yuta humbly tells Mayu that it should be Todo since he was the one who scored for the team. Seeing Mayu insisting on making him the MVP for making passes that created scores for the team, Yuta wonders why he is receiving praise at all, as he believes that all he did was just pass. Thanking Mayu for the praise, Yuta was surprised when Mayu suddenly pulled the bottle, pointing out how Yuta was not being honest in thanking her and just glossed over it. Having no knowledge about Yuta's self-esteem, Mayu believes that Yuta should be praised more, not only for making a good pass in basketball. Yuta becomes confused with what Mayu is saying. To put things more clearly for Yuta, Mayu tells him that if no one is praising him, then she will be the one who will praise him. Seeing Mayu giving him praise, Yuta became embarrassed and thanked Mayu again. Mayu then left when she realized that Yuta doubted that she was really in a basketball club. Exhausted, Yuta notices Natsuki's response and realizes that she misunderstood his message. It's not that Yuta did not want to go, it's just that he doesn't have anyone to invite. Yuta then decided to just pass on the offer and messaged Natsuki. Todo then approached Yuta, giving him a bottle as the MVP reward and also his treat. Thanking Todo for the treat, Yuta shared how Mayu also mentioned that he's the MVP. After sharing what happened between him and Mayu earlier before storming off, Todo shares how he knows exactly what Mayu felt since he knows what Yuta is like. Giving Yuta a thumbs up, Todo praises him for giving him great passes, which led to a nice play. It annoyed Todo that he was the only one who got praised after the game, but Todo is now glad that Yuta has someone who will praise him. Embarrassed, Yuta tells Todo that he does not know how to respond to his praises. Receiving a response from Natsuki, informing him that the party would be fun, Yuta did not think that Natsuki would come down on him like that. Yuta thought that Natsuki was a little too eager for a casual invitation. Seeing the invitation on Yuta's phone, Todo thought that the event sounded fun and suggested that Yuta invite Mayu, as he's sure that Mayu would happily go with him. Yuta agrees that Mayu would definitely agree to join him, but he couldn't take Mayu to a place where alcohol is being served. When Todo suggested that he invite Ayaka, Yuta thought about Ayaka also. However, he believes that it is impossible since she's a busy person. Todo was able to persuade Yuta to call Ayaka so that at least he would not regret not trying. Calling Ayaka, Yuta asked her out to go to the Valentine's party together, which surprised Todo at how direct Yuta asked. Yuta was surprised when Ayaka agreed, and plans to open a schedule for him. When Mayu asked why he's surprised, Yuta responded that he did not think Ayaka would be free on Valentine's Day. When Yuta asked if she was sure, Ayaka responded and asked Yuta to stop being silly, as she already said yes. Upon learning that Ayaka was headed to her part-time job, Yuta was asked by her if he wanted to talk a little longer. However, Yuta declined since he's currently at his club. As Todo mentioned that calling Ayaka was the right call, and even thought of her as a good friend, Yuta thought that Ayaka has now found herself a good surrounding. Yuta has decided to attend the Valentine's Day party. However, he later learned that he was invited by Natsuki for a reason. While Mayu is reading a manga at Yuta's place, she tells him that she has plans for the day, meaning she will not be making him dinner. Yuta has no problem with it, as he also has plans, which Mayu finds surprising, thinking it's rare for him to have any plans at all. When Mayu mentions that it's neither Yuta's usual part-time work nor his circle day, Yuta feels a bit unnerved, not expecting Mayu to know his schedule so well. Mayu then tells Yuta not to make her sound suspicious and points out a calendar, explaining that anyone could know his plans with just one glance. When Mayu asks Yuta about his plans for the day, she does not expect that he would be attending a party. Hearing Yuta mention that the party is off-limits to minors, Mayu is shocked and tells Yuta she's not sure how to send him off to a party like that. Seeing Mayu's reaction, Yuta wonders what kind of crazy misunderstanding she might be having, as she seems to be overreacting to the term off-limits to minors. Mayu lashes out, calling Yuta a creep for enjoying her embarrassment. Noticing the time, Yuta realizes that it's time for him to leave and tells Mayu that he's headed out. Since Mayu also has plans, Yuta suggests that she should go home too. But Mayu insists on staying a little longer since she is currently watching something and is at a good part. Yuta then stands in front of Mayu and surprises her by handing her a key. When Yuta tells Mayu to lock the door and drop the key in the mailbox, she initially thinks it's a spare key, but after learning that it's his original key, Mayu feels like she has gotten one step closer to Yuta. Finally leaving and lending Mayu his key, Yuta realizes he didn't receive any chocolates from her. At the station, Ayaka is starting to attract attention from the guys because of how beautiful she looks. When the two finally meet, Yuta is surprised at how Ayaka looks even more beautiful than usual. Yuta becomes embarrassed when Ayaka points out that he is dressed in his normal clothes, just like what he would wear to a lecture. Since Yuta thought they'd only be talking and drinking, he assumed no one would mind what he wore. As they're headed to a Valentine's Day event, Ayaka asks Yuta if he even looked at the picture Natsuki sent him, explaining that men and women will be randomly paired to chat, and if a woman likes a man, she will give him chocolates. Listening to Ayaka, Yuta is shocked and curious about what kind of event it is. After Yuta says he's fine with not receiving chocolates, he suddenly becomes a bit downhearted and asks if he could go home. Ayaka then protests, reminding him that she needs him as a partner to enter the party. She reassures Yuta that he'll be fine, as she plans to give her chocolate to him. Yuta is surprised when Ayaka suddenly hands him her chocolate. Seeing his reaction, Ayaka asks if he doesn't like it. Yuta explains that he's just surprised since it's the first time he has received chocolate from her. Realizing Yuta is right, Ayaka tells him he's lucky. Ayaka then mentions that women are expected to make multiple chocolates and that she's certain Yuta will receive some from others too. When they arrive at the venue, they're both stunned by the grandness of the event. Yuta whispers that the place looks like it would set someone back at least 7,000 yen. Confused, Ayaka agrees that the venue must have cost a lot. When Yuta and Ayaka finally spot Natsuki in the crowd, they're surprised to see her with Yudu, Mayu's ex-boyfriend. The host of the party then takes the stage and introduces himself as Tsuda, asking everyone to raise their hand if they have already received chocolate. Ayaka is a bit mad at Yuta for not raising his hand, assuming the chocolate she gave him doesn't count. As Ayaka announces her intention to find a potential boyfriend at the event, Yuta senses that Ayaka's chocolates will be anything but scarce. Natsuki and Yudu approach them, and when Yudu sees Yuta holding chocolate, he asks Ayaka if she also plans to give him some, to which Ayaka responds that she does, as she made a lot. As one of the hosts explains the event's mechanics, Yuta realizes the attendees have significant freedom in their interactions. When Yuta sees that his partner's number is 30, he doesn't expect to be paired with Natsuki. As they begin to chat, Natsuki starts by thanking Yuta for accepting her invitation. When Yuta asks if she's one of the organizers, Natsuki replies that she's simply friends with the organizer, which is why she received extra invitations. Though Yuta learns that Natsuki invited other guys, he's still puzzled by her persistent line chat. When Yuta asks Natsuki why she invited him, she hints that he'll soon find out. As their time together ends, Natsuki expresses her relief at pairing with Yuta first. Yuta feels the same and promises to bring the manga they discussed next time. When Natsuki notices Yuta staring at her chocolate, she apologizes, explaining that it wouldn't feel right to give chocolate to someone she already knows. Yuta understands, sure that Natsuki didn't make as many chocolates as Ayaka. He realizes he mentioned Ayaka's name to escape the awkward moment. As they discuss Ayaka's enjoyable time with her partner, Natsuki asks if Yuta isn't interested in dating Ayaka. Yuta laughs, reminding Natsuki that he doesn't see Ayaka in a romantic way. When Natsuki mentions that they've been friends for a long time, Yuta confirms but becomes curious if he ever told Natsuki how long he's known Ayaka. As the two part ways, Yuta begins interacting with others and receives some chocolates. Realizing Ayaka is nearby, he's invited by her to take a break outside. Sitting on a bench, Ayaka notices how exhausted Yuta looks, and Yuta is surprised at how good Ayaka has become at talking with others. However, Ayaka says she still struggles to be as open with others as she is with Yuta. She envies Yuta for his ability to open up to people he barely knows. Yuta reveals he's the same as her, finding it hard to open up to new people. Recently, he's noticed Ayaka's smile, which he credits to her efforts. Before heading back inside, Yuta praises Ayaka for always being amazing. While taking an order, Yuta hears a familiar voice and realizes it's Yudu exchanging contact information with another woman. As the host announces the last match of the event and encourages everyone to make it memorable, Yuta searches for his partner, shocked to see it's Natsuki. Remembering her words, Yuta is surprised when Ayaka suddenly grabs his shoulder. Seeing his odd reaction, Ayaka asks if he's okay. Yuta assures her he's fine and steps away as his number is called. His expression darkens, having realized the truth the moment he saw someone familiar. It's revealed that Yuta's final partner is none other than Reina, marking the second time they've encountered each other since their breakup. That is the end of the recap at Chapter 16. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.